Hey everyone, for this week's video we have a very short and sweet one. I really like asymmetrical fights, and I think it's one of the things that really makes playing a combat fight sim really interesting. How their plane is built to fight versus how yours is built to fight, plus all the psychological things that go into it, makes for a very interesting experience. In this video we find ourselves in a David versus Goliath scenario, and it was a neat one, so I thought I'd share, as I found it interesting in rewatching. If this is your first time here, this channel focuses on multiplayer sim gameplay, so if you're into that, please subscribe. We start this fight off with a warning. There's a fulcrum 14 nautical miles away from us, and we are also starting at a disadvantage because the MiG-29 has R-27R Fox 1 missiles, and we only have A-9Ps. Key thing here is going to be to close the gap against him to take away his advantage. And one really nice thing is that these little mountains or mounds in front of us, so we can kind of terrain mask our way as we get closer. Now, one thing I really like about the server are these credit planes. I know some people don't like the concept, but I actually find it really neat because it's almost like a little mini boss fight, and when you run into one of these guys, are you going to go after him or run away? And in this case I decided to go after him. Don't have eyes yet, so I turn my radar on and I pick something up which helps to point my eyes, and I see that really smoky trail of the MiG-29. And what I decided to do is to continue to use these hills, and I could have gone right here to try to trip him up, but I was scared of losing him, so I decided to go right at him. Now here's the moment of truth. Is he going to be able to fire at me? And it looks like I'm under his nose, so I'm safe for now. And here I have a choice. Do I cash it all in and pull really hard and go for him, or do I kind of go up high? And I decide to do that. And this way I keep some altitude in reserve to build up some energy later, and I see I still have enough speed. So I have trashed the first missile, and this is not an ideal fight. I am going to hope that this other guy panics a little bit, so I decided to keep my speed at about 400 knots, and I'm going to try to just outturn him and see what he does. I feel comfortable doing this because I had these hills, so I have a sort of a something to eat the missiles if I need to later. I'm keeping it up, and he's keeping it up, and the raw power of the MiG-29 is really showing here, and I can see him getting closer and closer to my tail. So I know I'm not going to be able to keep doing this. So do I either cut back, or do I try to finish the circle and go for the hill? And I decide for the latter. I am dropping a few flares to make sure he can't do anything to me, and I decide to reverse here instead of going for the hill. Now, a little wobbly, not ideal. And trashed another missile. That was incredibly lucky because I dumped an insane amount of flares, and that freaked me out a little bit. He has his head mounted aiming sight, so he can kind of rip off these missiles much easier than I can. So I decide that I need to kind of reset. We merged pretty close there, and I have a little bit of time before he gets his nose up, so I'm going to go for the hill because I need to build my speed up. He's getting his nose close, and drop a few flares, and I duck back under. And my hope here is I can stay low enough and out of sight, and another missile. And my hope here is that I can kind of get close with him again and see if I can reset this fight. Now here's my chance right here, but very unlucky with the cloud, not able to get my sight on him, and the sun's there too, which made it a little bit tricky. And I have lost my speed, I have lost sight on him, I'm way too slow, and I know that I'm going to have to cash this altitude in for some speed, but I don't see him, so I'm going to rely on text lore to try to pick him back up. And there's a lot of stuff going on here, some other planes. I see one here. This looks like a MiG-21, not him, and that looks like a MiG-29. Luckily I have these hills between me and him again. Trying to mask myself or hide myself behind it. And I trashed another missile, and trying to go all in here and try to get my nose on target as he zipped on by. I'm hoping that he was fast enough, or too fast, that he wouldn't be able to turn and I can get my nose on. And what we see here was he just basically turned into a rocket ship and just zoomed out. Kind of did the same thing as before, which is smart. And he went back in the cloud and I lost him. So this is the part where I start making a mistake, which is chasing him up. That hill has basically kept me alive, and I've dodged multiple missiles with it. And he uses raw power and was able to complete a loop and get a missile on me, which was unfortunate. I wanted to share this video because I thought it was a neat little fight, something that doesn't happen very often. A 4-minute long fight with an F-5 versus MiG-29. It was actually his last missile there, so it would have been interesting to see what would have happened if I stayed low and dodged it. Looking forward to your reaction to this video. If you found this video interesting or entertaining, please consider subscribing, and I hope you all have a good one.